Let's bring in our correspondent, Adele Robinson, who joins me now. Hello there to you, Adele. This is a case from 27 years ago, and Lady Justice Eadie saw on compassionate grounds, really, to hand down a suspended sentence.
She did. A 2 years suspended sentence, effectively. There were two charges with which the defendant was found, well, she pleaded guilty on. The first, of course, was manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. The second, for the concealment of the birth of a child. On the first offence, it was a 2 year suspended sentence. On the second, 6 months, also suspended, which would run concurrently. So that effectively means that the first sentence, 2 years suspended sentence, was the one to take note of. She was also told that for the next 12 months, she will be under a mental health treatment programme, and also that she will have to get involved in what's known as a 30-day rehabilitation activity requirement, which will mean that she has to attend and cooperate in any activities that she will be required to be taking part in. It's an extremely tragic case. The judge herself described it as terrible and tragic, the events. But she said that she was satisfied that Joanne Sharkey was suffering from lengthy postnatal depression, which impaired her ability to form rational judgments and exercise self-control. She also said that had she had her depression diagnosed at the time, that she was under no doubt that Joanne Sharkey would have required urgent medical attention. She said to Joanne Sharkey during her sentencing comments that not a day has passed when you have not dwelt on these matters, and that you have carried the weight of this guilt all these years. And she said that the judge said, nothing I can do or say can turn the clock back. She said that you lived isolated with this terrible and tragic knowledge for a quarter of a century. Just a reminder of what happened. This is a case that goes back 25 years. Joanne Sharkey admitted suffocating her newborn son, who was later named by medical professionals Callands, back in 1998. She dumped his body in a bin bag in some woods in Warrington. And she was only found by police 25 years later, in 2023, after her son was arrested and a DNA sample was taken, which led back to her and her husband. Now, at the time in 1998, a number of arrests were made and young women were put forward by their own families, but they were subsequently eliminated due to DNA tests that were carried out. And it was in 2023 that a periodic review of the National DNA Database was carried out, and that led to the DNA matches and therefore led to Joanne Sharkey and her husband at the time being arrested. Now, interestingly, a covert recording was made while Joanne Sharkey and her husband were in the back of the police car following her arrest. And during that covert recording, which was that was specifically mentioned by the judge in her sentencing, it was clear that Sharkey was going to admit to what she'd done, that she wasn't going to try to cover it up, and that it was made clear that she had carried this with her that the whole time, every single day. She also quoted Joanne Sharkey in her statements, saying that she had described this as a haunting thing that had happened to her, that she'd thought about it every day, and that actually she'd spoken of her relief when it had finally come out, and that she'd described it as the worst thing that could ever have happened to her. We also heard how she had concealed her pregnancy, her second pregnancy this was, by wearing baggy clothes, even from her husband. Her husband had no idea that she had been pregnant, that she had given birth, and that she had ultimately suffocated their son and then got rid of his body. She had said to police in interviews that she had been fearful of becoming a mother to another child. And of course, it was since agreed with psychiatrists throughout assessments that she had developed this depressive illness, which had substantially impaired her ability to form rational judgments. She had found effectively the combination of motherhood and full-time job challenging, but what the judge was saying there was that she had been suffering from this lengthy postnatal depression and also some personality traits that had been highlighted by psychiatrists and assessments that had led exacerbating that potentially and explaining why she hadn't told anybody what had happened. With regards to the baby boy, a pathologist found bruises on his neck, his face and his head and wads of tissue in her mouth. The judge did say that she was satisfied that Joanne Sharkey had little recollection of this time and that she had blanked it out, and she was unable to recall even the day or time that the baby was born. It could have been 3 a.m, she said, or 3 p.m. And she also said that at one point she said she thought she'd given birth while she was standing up in her bathroom at home, which the judge said might explain the bruising on her head. But effectively, this is a 2-year, just to repeat, suspended sentence for Joanne Sharkey for a case that goes back 25 years that has been described by the judge as terrible and tragic.
Yeah, very sad indeed, isn't it? Adele, thank you for the summary.